So, if I were to ask you how smart you are, what would you say? Would you give me your IQ? Would you jump to your GPA? Maybe you might say that you are wicked smart. But what does that actually mean? If I told you that I was smart, you'd think I was arrogant. To which I would give you times that I felt smart. Like when I got an A on my first college chemistry exam, or when I did well in a musical theater production. I did well academically in one, and I excelled artistically in another. But what do these examples have in common? I met someone else's standard. I got affirmation from someone else. I allowed someone else to define me based on a static criteria. So maybe this anecdotal definition of intelligence doesn't really work. What about a dictionary definition? Well, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, intelligence is defined as, quote, the ability to apply and acquire knowledge and skills. But what is this ability? Is this ability something innate, something unchanging? Or is this ability something learnable and dynamic? So it doesn't really matter what I think or what the dictionary thinks. It matters what you think. Hi, I'm Justin Moy with a cop-out fun fact, so you already know that. But I'm not here to give you the definition of intelligence. I'm here to tell you that by following the growth mindset of learning, you can interpret your intelligence to become more successful, more efficiently, more sustainably. When I first heard about the growth mindset and the fixed mindset about 2 years ago, I initially sort of scoffed it off as some new age mind trick. But in reality, it's actually incredibly helpful because while the growth mindset focuses on process and may not focus as much on results, the two are not mutually exclusive. The growth mindset and the fixed mindset are not set definitions. Rather, they're a set of habits that people exhibit. Growth mindset learners saw failure as the application of insufficient effort, whereas fixed mindset learners saw failure as an attack on their personal innate abilities, and therefore their self-worth went down. Growth mindset learners wanted to focus on achieving mastery goals because they saw those as a culmination of their hard work, whereas fixed mindset learners wanted tangible and many times numerical results because they could show those to the world and prove their intelligence. Now, this isn't to say that fixed mindset learners are less intelligent. In fact, because of their need to validate their intelligence, they got higher standardized test scores. But during college, their self-esteem tended to drop. You know, it was probably about 3 weeks into college, and one of my classmates looked visibly upset. So I asked her what was wrong. And she told me that she thought she was stupid because she did poorly on her exam. Now, think about that difference. There's a difference between being stupid and just having a bad day and failing once. Because she thought that she was stupid, and therefore she shouldn't try, because it was fated that she would always fail. On the other hand, a growth mindset learner would have seen this situation differently. They would have been able to contextualize this failure, and they would have seen that perhaps they were adjusting to college, maybe the material was harder on this exam, or perhaps it was just a fluke. My classmate saw her failure as a discrete point that acted as a toggle switch to switch her perception from smart to stupid. See, you can't look at success or failure this way. They have to be seen as continuous, not discrete. Now, take any sport. I can't really see you, but raise your hand if you've played a sport, right? Okay, so for those of you confident enough to raise your hand, I'm sure that you've worked hard at your sport and that you consider yourself good at your sport. On the other hand, for those of you that didn't, or even those of you who did raise your hand, I'm sure that some of you have tried out a sport at least once, maybe for a season, maybe for even one practice. But afterwards, you quit. And why did you quit? Maybe you thought that, oh, this isn't for me. or I'm bad at this, or maybe this doesn't work out. But deep down, subconsciously, how many of you think that you quit because you did not want to put yourself into the uncomfortable position of failing and failing and failing until you were finally good at it? Right? Nod your head if you think of that. Now, this may be fine if you're only trying it once, but for something that you love, if you have that with a subset, it's detrimental. Take, for instance, skiing. I love to ski, and when I first took my skiing lesson when I was 4, I had no idea what to expect, but I went with it. And the way that I ski is called bi-skiing, which is essentially a seat attached to 2 skis, and I'm harnessed inside of that seat. And so we're skiing down. I thought I was doing pretty good, being a 4-year-old and all. And the instructor was holding on to the chair. And we got to this flat section, and my instructor decided to give me a little bit more freedom. And so he decided to tether me, which is holding on to ropes, which are attached to the ski. Now we're going on this flat section, and I decided to go pretty slowly because I'm hesitant. And I tip over, right? And as a 4-year-old, I thought to myself, I was good at skiing before, right? But now I'm bad at skiing because I tipped over. This is the difference. Did it ever cross my mind to think about how little I had actually skied before? Maybe I wasn't ready to practice. Or maybe I would have learned that going slowly on a flat section is not good for balancing on skis. But I didn't. And instead, I decided not to tether for the next 8 years of my life because I was bad at it. Because I saw that failure as a failure of myself, not a failure of the circumstances. Now, I'm a good skier now, at least I consider myself to be, but if I had tethered and I had seen failure as the roadway to success and not a roadblock that I saw it as, then I would be much greater than I am today. The fixed mindset and the growth mindset are not just opposite in their reconciling with failure, but also their transformation of failure. Take Charles Goodyear, the inventor of vulcanized rubber. Did he actually intend to invent vulcanized rubber? No. In other people's eyes, his experiment would have been a failure. He forgot to clean his hot plate, so when he melted some rubber and sulfur reacted with it, he didn't know what to do, but that didn't stop him from making progress. He took his process, he learned from his process, and he made something ubiquitous out of it, something useful, and he learned from his failure. So obviously failure may seem like an obvious connection to the growth mindset, but the growth mindset also helps to reconcile success. You see, it turns out that many fixed mindset learners tend to attribute their success to luck. But how is this sustainable? How is this healthy? If you're always trying to validate your intelligence, and every time you fail, you chip away at your psyche, you chip away, you chip away, you chip away, you're left with nothing. Because eventually, when you do finally have that success, you're not able to rebuild because you see it, you write it off as luck. So you may be asking yourself, if I'm a fixed mindset learner, or even if I attribute some of my habits to the fixed mindset, how can I change myself? How can I be different? Well, you shouldn't be asking that. What you should be asking is how can I help other people? Because as with any mindset, it's a lot easier to change it when you're younger than when you're older. And it can be as easy as how you compliment a child on their drawing. Dr. Carol Dweck, a leader in the fields of intelligence and learning theories, found that complimenting a child on the hard work that they put into a drawing created the growth mindset because they attributed their hard work, something tangible, something that they could feel and do towards the praise that they received. On the other hand, fixed mindset learners tended to be complimented with things like, oh, you're a good drawer. But like intelligence, what is a good drawer? It's abstract. You can't see it. And so they would go out and try to prove it by doing the drawings without ever realizing it was the work that got them their compliments. Now, obviously, most of you aren't toddlers. So what can we do to change this. So while we can't actually change the mindset, we can mitigate the effects of it. And that starts with vigilance. Whenever you're successful, don't just pat yourself on the back. Also take a look at why you succeeded and areas in your success that you could have done better at. It's about introspection, and everybody talks about that, but how often do we actually do it? We don't do it that often. And so I ask you, do you want to not be able to transform opportunity, to miss opportunity? Do you want to languish in the face of failure and never make any progress? Do you want your psyche to be chipped away every time you fail and never be able to rebuild it? I think not. So I ask you to fail now, learn later, and succeed sustainably. Thank you.